Every night before bed, Sharon Eckerson read her son Roman a bedtime story. He has a plethora of picture books on the bookshelf that stands in the corner of his room. Sharon gives her son the opportunity to pick the book from his shelf. And the boy ran and ran from the vicious monster. He was tired, but he never stopped running. Eventually, the boy outsmarted the monster and was safely reunited with his family. Sharon closed the book and smiled at her son, who was fighting sleep. His eyes kept closing, but he would widen them right away. "Good night, son." Sharon leaned in and kissed her 9-year-old son on the forehead. Roman smiled warmly. Sharon stands and walks out of the room. "Mom?" Roman called out to Sharon. She turned and looks at her son. "Yes?"
Did he really escape the monster?"
"Yes, baby. Yes, he did." Sharon turns off the light and closes the door, leaving it slightly cracked. Roman turns and looks at his nightlight. It's a dinosaur plastic cover with a bright light shining behind it. Roman quickly loses his battle and falls asleep. A loud scratching noise on the wood floor wakes the sleeping child. He rubs his eyes and sits up. The scratching noise is continuous and being deeply dug in the floor. Roman listens intently. It's coming from under his bed. He scoots to the edge of his bed and looks over to the floor. All of a sudden, the scratching noise stops and an unsettling silence falls over Roman's bedroom. He trembles with fear and raises the blanket to his eyes. He starts shaking violently. He attempts screaming, but only silence escapes his mouth. The shaking stops. Roman contemplates leaping from the bed and sprinting to his door. But fear strikes him like a bolt of lightning. It paralyzes him. A thick fog begins to creep out from under Roman's bed and rise through the air. It fills the room, and within a matter of minutes, it becomes too thick to see through. Roman swats at the fog, hoping to create visibility. But every time he swings at it, it becomes thick again. A deep croaking noise comes from under his bed and penetrates through the dense fog to his ears. Roman scoots back till he hits the wall and can't move any further. The croaking noise is made again, but this time it's closer. It's no longer under the bed, but to the side, near where Roman currently is sitting at attention. From the fog, a long, slimy, scaly arm with a hand that has long, bony fingers which have nails that form into razor-sharp points reach out and nearly swipes Roman. This time he manages to let out a scream for help. The arm retracts into the fog. Sharon swings the door open and barges in. By this time, the fog is cleared and there's no further noises. There's only Roman curled in the fetal position, sucking his thumb. Sharon snapped her son out of his petrified trance, bringing him back to reality. When he saw his mom, he began to ramble about what happened. Sharon dismissed her son's babbling and embraced him with a hug. Once able to rock him to sleep, Sharon stood, looked at her son with this deep love, and walked out of his room. While the unsuspecting child slept, the long, scaly arms stretched out from under the bed. Their reach was several feet. It dug its nails into the wood floor and pulled itself out from under the bed. The creature had skin that was similar to a reptile. It was dark black with a hard outer surface. As it drug its own body across the floor, a trail of slime followed. When morning came, the sun broke through Roman's white curtains and lit up his room. He opened his eyes and stepped off his bed. Immediately, he was met with the stickiness under his feet. He looked down and saw that there was a trace sap-like substance trail all the way to his dresser. Despite taking a shower, the stickiness under Roman's foot wouldn't go away. In fact, it started spreading up his calf and wrapping around the front of his shin. It bothered him to the point where he couldn't stop scratching. His skin became irritated and red. By the end of the day, the black stickiness spread from his leg up to his neck. His mom took notice and applied anti-itch cream to the affected areas. Her son's skin was cold to the touch. She read him his nightly book and walked out of the room, leaving the door partially cracked. Roman lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The scratching noise started under his dresser. A low, raspy voice came from under.
"Roman, come Join me, Roman.
Roman gripped his blanket tightly. He closed his eyes, hoping that what he was hearing was part of some dream. Silence settled, and he thought it was a dream. But when he opened his eyes, he was met face to face with the monster. It was hideous. Its face was sunk in with very bony cheeks. The monster opened its mouth and revealed its rows upon rows of yellow pointed teeth that were jagged and looked similar to that of a shark. Its mouth was stretched open wide enough to swallow the young boy's head. The next morning, Sharon entered her son's room and discovered he was gone. His bed sheets were tossed about and Roman was gone. She looked around the room. She was calm and non-panicky. She sat on the edge of the bed and looked around, smiling. Years earlier, Sharon had made a deal with the devil that if he let her father live, he would have her firstborn son, a life for a life. Her father is alive and well now. The devil had come to collect his end of the deal.